Greetings, YouTube. Welcome back to the channel. Not all heroes wear capes. And that brings us to today's video where my man, Mr. Domac, has spent so much time sending over a series of screenshots and short-ish video clips showing how Zemo is a game changer with so many nodes in this content. He was blessed enough to get him, and he was also kind enough to send this info. So the first clip we're going to look at is from 8.1.5, the Red Riot Shield Path. This is the node right here. And he wanted to show a Mr. Fantastic fight anyway, so it worked well. Now, this Mr. Fantastic fight is, not the hardest fight traditionally, but it still can be something that tricks some people up. Obviously, Mr. Fantastic, and I actually appreciate with willpower that he can heal me up depending on how I play him. But you can see here, it's kind of a slow, steady build-up. There's the unblockable. And Zemo is just going to kind of take his time here, building up his power. Then he gets the special one off. And then seeing permanent bleeds, there's just something so incredible about that. I'm so used to just looking at a bleed timer and thinking, all right, how long do I have before they expire? And the answer with him is apparently never. Or, I guess technically until the health leaves the opponent. And look at that, 2,800 bleed per tick. You also notice that he appears to not have suicide/ouchies on, so he's not taking recoil damage, which means he can stay at that 100% health threshold as long as he fights well. Now, do you prefer Zemo over Nick Fury? That's for you to decide. But Nick Fury does not have permanent bleeds. And you can see if he just dances around Mr. Fantastic for the rest of the fight, he'll win. Because that's the beauty of permanent bleeds, especially when you're doing over 2,000 damage. Every second, and really it's up to almost 3,000 now, every second is just giving you more incentive to watch him melt away. And look at the end of that fight. I mean, he has just ramped up really impressive damage to the point that was clearly a smooth and clinical fight. So the next clip is from 6.1. You can see a long distance relationship. Much easier content, but he thought it would be fun to show another node he's very good against. And long distance relationship, I believe, is also in the victory track. A very short amount of time with how fast we've seen the likelihood of Battlegrounds Season 5 come back. And by likelihood, I mean it's 100%. And here is a champion that is bleed immune. So, that was kind of my first question with Zemo is, well, is he still going to be viable against somebody like an Ultron that's got multiple immunities? And on paper, I'd think no. But you can see the cleanse going to work. Nice intercept skills. Using a special one. And still just having his way. And what's really impressive is that he is not causing a single bleed, which traditionally you'd think is his main source of damage. There's a special 2. Not crazy damage on the special 2, but that's okay. I still see this guy being a really annoying defender. All right, so not as clinical as the first fight, but still a pretty big deal. And he said the first fight is bleed immune, so he wanted to showcase how well he does against a bleed immune with his Fury buff, which triggers when an opponent purifies or is immune to any of his effects. This includes parrying stun immune opponents, which is pretty amazing. Again, Venom Pool, not exactly looked at as a tough defender, but it's still about showcasing how he handles different kinds of nodes. His utility is so game-changing that I think he's going to age like a fine wine. And Kabam is doing this for a reason, not just for prestige, which Zemo also specializes in, but because they know that there are going to be so many champs this year, as this is the first full year of Battlegrounds in the game. They know that it could be the haves and have-nots. And we've seen that in years past. This is nothing new. Alliance War used to have those who had Blade, those who didn't. Those who had Iron Man Infinity War, those who didn't. Now we're just going to see it affect more content because there's more content to literally affect. And here you've got, man, it's pretty fascinating how that route works as well. Building up to 14 blades. Only 853 damage to start off with here. But, you know, every little bit helps. So, yeah. Zemo, Act 6, Awakened 6-star. So early on, and yet so fun. So, this is going to be a longer fight because, at this point, Mr. Rank 4, we know who this mystery champ is. It's Red Hulk, right? Specifically, this is our friend from the Labyrinth of Legends, Red Hulk. Now, he said this was a bit messy, but it still showcased the damage ramp up well. The big strength of him isn't that the numbers are always huge, although they can be. It's that they never expire. None of his bleed debuffs, decelerate passives, disorient passives, or sunder passive, which he hasn't shown because you need to use the special 3 in most fights. You don't need to use that anyway. Expire at all. So yeah, this is clearly going to be a longer fight. And I knew when he sent me all of this information. So basically when I commentate something like this, especially in radio form where you have the benefit of not seeing my face, I put the information in a document in a different window and then mirror my phone so that you see the gameplay uninterrupted by a webcam. But then I also have to make sure I follow what's called CDOG, SADOG in broadcast, where you match and mirror the video with the audio. Not the most difficult thing to do, but if you don't think about it and you take it for granted, it can trick you up, as my seniors find out the hard way on many of their reporting multimedia journalism projects. All right, so now we have 29 bleeds, and once again, he's over 2,000 damage. As I said in the first fight, if he wanted to, he could just kind of keep dancing around and see how long it took to just melt him. It's a really comforting thing to know that when the nodes line up, because there are going to be some times where maybe they don't. It'd be fascinating to see this, and I might ask him, like, so how does he handle masochism? Because obviously the bleeds are going to trigger regen guaranteed when the timer resets. But that actually might be a benefit because maybe it's just me, but with nodes like masochism, I sometimes take the timer for granted and I'll parry, and the parry will cause the regen, and then because I forgot that the parry causes the regen and there actually is no stun, I'll release the block and then I'll get wrecked. Which, if you have this champion and you just wait for that masochism to load, you can always parry right after that because you know that regen's already been used up. And at least in my head, I think that makes that node a lot less stressful to keep timers in mind. It's also funny, I talk to people, especially family all the time, and they say, how are you not the greatest person in the world at this game, given how long you've played and how long you've been on YouTube? And I say, well, this game creates things like Root, for example, that you just don't have any prior preparation. You've been playing the game for 6 years, and suddenly if you just can't move for X amount of time, none of the preparation you've had can really give you an expertise in it right away, unless I guess you think about something like Quake. But that's what's fascinating about this game. New node combos can make it feel like if you get wrecked, you haven't ever played this game, even if you played for 7 years like I have. I guess it makes it fun, but it also makes it hard to explain to somebody why it's not just the same thing over and over again with just new champions. And then, of course, new champion abilities don't hurt either. Look at the ramp up of the 75 bleeds, and now, yes, that is over 6,000 bleed damage per tick. Now, 7,000, and he's at 91 bleeds. And I know he said this is a sloppy fight. I don't think it looks that sloppy. 7,400. So, yeah, he can just chill. If he wanted, he can just dance back and not even risk getting hit. And there you go. Kind of reminds me of Omega Red, where you're dancing around and he's melting as you're getting hit. So he can be countering you and still get knocked out. That's a good feeling. Okay. So next we have a Mordo fight. He said, the next is the skill node in the Thronebreaker difficulty monthly quest against a Mordo. It's a good matchup for Zemo anyway. And I cannot say enough how much I appreciate the work that he did to send over such a variety of fights and such great information. I mean, this is making not only my job so much easier to create this video for the channel, but also it just showcases how much work he was willing to put in, which, as always, means the community is awesome and impressive. There's a special 2. Special 1. And there is the evade, but then the cleanse. Sort of like who's going to stun who, you know? Anytime you have somebody who's a good matchup against Mordo, though, I count that as a win because he is still with that power gate and so annoying to fight. And if you disagree, hopefully you don't live to regret it with a Hyperion-like all-or-nothing node feeling like where he just builds up to a special 3. Here is a special 2. It's interesting because the bleeds don't start out high at all, but once you get here and you've got 2,000 per tick, especially in like a Thronebreaker difficulty fight, you're not going to have to wait that long for him to be knocked out. I will say, though, in the skill one, I think Black Widow Deadly Origin melts them much faster. Just personal preference. Okay. I believe this is the final fight. This is, of course, against Annihilus. Specifically, 8.1.6. He was trying to find the beefiest Annihilus to showcase just how good a counter Zemo is to him, which I know I'm probably a broken record by now, but I very much appreciate. Bait that heavy, lock him in. When he's locked in, of course, he can't go unstoppable, and that makes it easier. And look at that cleanse really limiting the damage. Also, willpower. This is part of what's going to make him such a tough defender, is willpower is healing him up and causing him to have what he would consider to be sloppy fights. And then look how much his bleeds have already ramped up. He's at over 50. That's wild. So took some hits, but he can still feel tanky to me, especially with the right mastery setup. Now it's 70 bleeds. All right, took a heavy. Dodge that. I hate being in the corner against Annihilus. This is one of my personal hells. But check out how, yeah, he's trying to survive in the corner, but every time that he's pulling a Quake and just baiting heavies, he's losing 6,000 health per tick, which is insane. And there you go. Most of that was him just dodging heavies in the corner, and that knocked him out because of the bleed damage. Thank you again so much to Domac04. This was a lot of fun to put together. I hope you enjoyed it. And as always, I'm honored to feature your gameplay, your crystal openings on the channel. It's a community channel that highlights the best of the best, which includes our friend and fellow summoner, Domac04.